body. From billowing clouds of your wisdom and love, let fall the rain of the profound and extensive Dharma, in whatever form is suitable for subduing sentient beings. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings.
Yeah, that's all shut up.
Next song again.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, dear, guess it's a bushola song. Sinjurci number chotabos. Sinjurci number chotabo. Misal de lone, Javeco. Renji Rendame Barcuven, Chanju Simcha, Rabden Sonsa. She Subataro. Sinjuci number chotas, a pecha and Sogudwa. Sinjuji says, called Trupche. And it sang chicks or a common chicks church. And it cha tameba chida cha. And it sang Donda Chipa, sailed to Chutuara. Oh, the Kurniva Tishidusa, but I send you to see sang chigi, cha tameba, and it sang Donda Chipa, said to Kurniva Tishindusa. Send you to see a number chota boss. Missa Ludi Lone Chavecose. Nagarazo, Tanda Lulaya Teco, Missare Lucilon de Yorese. Koe Saxon Yelly Purua, Chumisa Pame Kutale Tuba, Tanda Chane Sherry, the Chay Pumbula Soba, to make it Rashi, Teletanico Jumia, Missamala Soba, Tatin de Mamusheda, Junguro Kangati teacher. Oh, today Missame Lu, Tameban dis or Ragaras, Missan Lundis. Judan or Dan Jebut, Kangichaneko, Shinjachi over Chimares, Kim Missamera, Shinjaches, the Missamas, the Kushiloki, Sigora, Kavane, my barrage. Ah, so what is Erich? Or some Missan Lundi Tabutis or a Missan Lundilane. Javeco Ranger in Dame, what you and us. Shen some jet, Tamjag to Introvertido. Rangi Kunseki, and they couldn't take on such a Yuracha, Yamde, ye members and yet Asura. Some jet Tamjag turned to get London, Sijimalo or Shengang, Sanjay Kovato, Sijimalo or Shengang, Consach, Yuracha, Yambe, members and yes, ye members some. Today's again, you are Chari, some, you are sure some literacy, Mensim Sigora. Can you tell us in Jubasam yes? Simja Tamjag to Sanjay Kovato, Teche do Geshe Chanjus and Betomba. Yeshe Tombe Sutim, Sosuke Kagatomia. Yeshe Tombe Sutim Roa. Kiwa Chudu Yisudim Kiwa Karina to get to go. Roa. Simja Denje Yisudim, Simja to Kandisha when I said to Gage. Don't I teach and the resource of a left answer. Tendechi is and Chanjus and Betombalane. And it's Simja Tamjag to Sanjay Kovato, watch a teacher to Geshe Chanjus and Yamli. Shooting similar so much as you can get target to be something. Oh, can it? till Juba sim Yeshuda. Most of Sanjay Kovan to Vechil, Tombalani, Chawa, like Juba Kapisan, Juba sim yes. Or the member that Juba sim Teta was a language you gave a yina. The same Deniki, Garaju Mezawa Lude, Chawa Sanjay, Rendame, Sanjay, you couldn't you a chit with the essay. Then they never said about the test of that. And they change you with some Chawate. 마지막 개발에 만년 봤었던 가수를 템포션에 송아리 기시에서 송아리 잡고 내송도 어야 되지라.
So here, as the great Bodhisattva Shantideva has stated, for like the supreme substance of the alchemists, it takes our impure flesh and makes of it the body of a Buddha, a jewel beyond all price. Such is bodhicitta. Let us grasp it firmly. So here, like this example of some kind of alchemical substance, where you might have like one coin's worth or something, a small amount that has the capacity, if you use this, to transform ordinary metal into gold. Thousands of, like coins worth of this metal could be transformed with just a little bit of this alchemical substance. So taking something that is like ordinary metal and making it quite valuable. And so too, like that, by us taking up bodhicitta, the body that we have right now, as it says here, our impure flesh, we have taken up this body, these contaminated aggregates that have been taken up due to the force of karma and the afflictions. And really, when we think about the nature of the body that we have, it is something that is unclean. I mean, we look at the causes. This body was accomplished from the egg and sperm of our parents. Its cause is unclean, the kind of nature of it. If we actually look at the substance of our body, if we look at what it produces and so forth, rather than being something that we should feel attachment to, this is really something we ought to feel kind of disgust towards if we really examine.
그래서 가스다 가스다 라마 kopkushoro 말에
이게 다리 실러지는 거라서.
나는 용만다 자대셔.
네, 진짜라.
Garland, we can't hear Katrina either. She's seemingly frozen, but still in the meeting. We'll just wait a minute and reach out to her.
담배도 크디셔나.
And she's left the meeting now, so hopefully she'll come back.
너무 집회사네. 네, 내진 가서.
kopkushoro 가요 우리 그 간지를 라고 자니 왜 마신 거 뒤에 간거 매우 차서.
파기때 깨지도 내는 가서.
아
르미지 가봤다 안에 깨지도 짜맹이 차서.
그 말에 그 로서 매우 차서. 로서 카자에 뒤 매우 차서.
뭐요?
그 실제 로르베.
그게 잘라녀 불러서.
아
잘라녀서요.
근데 보사들 나고라.
네. 네, 맞죠? 지금 말해서 콘서트지에를었어요.
라
그게 맞죠? 지금 말에 콘서트지에를었어.
membership.
이 그게 시간에 가서.
다시 마요나 그야 말 이샤들이 그저 저희는 그저 세운 거는 다 주고 샤시대.
그 맞대는 해야 되는데 까만가 못 들었어.
아유.
Jim's wife's Houston doctor, based on
진짜니 하셔리.
이제 콘서트 거는 콘서트 온지를 하겠다. 근데 저러면
미시다 바우르.
딜레 대신
군주 수고인데 군주 수고 샤스터.
딜레 인터넷에 야바 이 산산지를
반주 우셔서 하고 막아줘. 마시나.
We're
군주
just calling
수고.
Katrina, Rinpoche, to see what's going on.
다 Hello.
그게 뭐라.
콘서트에서 말이야. 쟤는 다 잊어버렸지.
Rinpoche, Katrina's lost her internet, so she's going to come back on her phone. So she'll be with us in a moment, and we'll see how good that phone connection works for the translation.
다 지냈어.
너무 나
다 됐어. 콘서트 길이.
Okay, Katrina, we can see you nicely, as we can't hear you yet. Okay,
날렸어.
we can't hear you.
그래서 그것도 왜? 그 말이야.
Yeah, no, we can't hear you.
그 기지도 계시고.
밤 들렸어. 진짜.
Can you try speaking again, Katrina? Can you hear us? Yeah, we can't hear you, sorry.
이선의 페이지 파기증이 있어. Hello.
Hello, sorry about the technical issues. It's a little surprising to just have the internet gone. So picking up from where we had left off here. So this aspiration of bodhicitta, of wishing to become a fully enlightened Buddha, one who has removed all faults and developed all good qualities and has the kind of knowledge of what is to be adopted and abandoned, that level of aspirational bodhicitta then becomes engaged bodhicitta. When we say take that up via a vow, not just having that kind of aspiration to work toward becoming a being that has removed all faults and developed all qualities, but actually taking that again through a vow and then engaging in the various practices of bodhisattva, such as the ethics of restraint, the ethics of accumulating virtuous actions, and the ethics of working for the benefit of others. And so when we have that kind of level of bodhicitta, wherein it's not just an aspiration, but one is working toward that, that is engaged bodhicitta. And again, this is something that is like an alchemical substance, taking this impure body that we have right now, and we can transform that into the body of a Buddha. And so we should strive to generate this attitude of bodhicitta, to increase and stabilize that which we have already generated.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, please.
Oh yeah. Oh that and that. Chunanga rajo semdi ke ura. Semje tamje to tungenge kyogu se yende kundegi. Kansachi den juwa chege yesam. Teche du tandane. Sangbu chabla chambada nyingji lobya. Ene chige tongba nyeda metabala soba tobe. Sheche nezu la samlo tangege shirabla chaya. Tesu change yesam de marajo tanda tende semjena. Ene pe lapchem pe to gora. Oh, tiene te machuna. Mandala ya, oh, ta sosyongone. Simchen sula ya chawachene. Tunge ki chime samsa. Chini kane yishala pendo chukwe samsa. Oh, tende samlo nibute pet jachimbo. Kone kondo ya pewa chage sambe samlo. Tangine pe garazu. Lute rimbe ni ya sanje yukul jiweta. Sanje kyun kanga sanje de tamze. Ye kone kondo pe ya chule dura. Oh, tende samlo tango yora. Chuna chanju semgone chuma maiba. Chuma maiba na sembi pa chöche. Teta namba rao pa chö. O tende machuna tende nge yoye chedo. Tanda ne semje sula ya tungenge chawa chebe kone tungenge kyu chigme esamna. Tungenge me jo chawa pake esam. Chini kane ki pemba chuke esamna. Chambada nyingje di ko sabi ristabki ora. Tende ni tungenge tamjata chawar cha tewa tamjata dambar cha se samli ungura. O tende samlutane. Simje tamje ke tupgege. Kya kusa yende kunde je kansa chilen juwa cha sam. Teche to kya narare ne paya shala chawala soba. Narare ne paya yende tabda shirap sangbu dan shen landur ji ne shebe shen yina. Chini ji changba chawi esam. Teche to ne ongumbu lutu ji jebe umaran ji chawage. Shinyagi esam. Tobada sabba koberim ji jogi esam. Kulung 11% tamne sabar shoes.
So we should take up this kind of attitude of bodhicitta. We should try to develop love and compassion, which are the kind of seeds of that, as well as developing and training in wisdom, understanding impermanence and selflessness, the way that things are that actually enhances our love and compassion for others. And at the very least, we should give rise to this attitude, I'm not going to harm any other sentient being. I'm not going to become the cause of their suffering. And as much as I am able to, I am going to benefit them. These two sorts of attitudes are what become the seeds for our future Buddhahood. These are the seeds of love and compassion. And so thereby, in order to develop the sort of causes that lead to that state of Buddhahood, we begin with, again, at the very least, thinking, I'm going to abandon any sort of harm toward others. I'm not going to be the cause of their suffering. I'm going to do whatever I can to be of benefit to them. And by planting those kinds of seeds of love and compassion, we eventually are able to generate a kind of uncontrived bodhicitta. And at this point, we should try in our mind to give rise to at least a kind of contrived level, thinking I will become a being who has eliminated all faults and developed all good qualities, able thereby to benefit all sentient beings. And for that purpose, I'm going to, from now, try to abandon any sort of fault, get rid of those negativities, and develop every sort of positive quality. I'm going to train in love and compassion, the method side, as well as training in insight and knowledge in order to be able to achieve that state of perfect, complete enlightenment. And so for that purpose, I am going to now listen to these teachings of the precious Garland of Venerable Nagarjuna in order to be able to develop such qualities, to become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. And so in this way, we should set our motivation for listening to the teachings.
Oh, yeah. 당한도 대 쇼로카 니바 델레테요바. 쇼로카
Okay.
니바 들어와. Oh, yeah. 제 가르시고서나 니한테 다 라산게다. 애니 쟁아라도 상막에 사셔베 개와. 시거도 너 개와던데. 애니 쭈르 주베. 근데 쭈 주르 되게니 산게게. 애니 가서래. 배제시 두고데스 바비보가데스 두고데스 와라. 세 단다데. 라산게 소지 시도. 에스나도 강가파 dabchuru kyube tsuge, ene tuba sanje chumdendege, pabi boga chik chubsi gora. Pabi boga sto kuyi pe Putin de gora, ko yele kiri che mandribisi de gora. O tinde tishik doa. Ya dande de mange logenda. Ransan jele, chunga dansira, ransan jele, nyendo da ransan jele, tine kache kiwa sagi yuna kiwa te sama tamche dansi gora. rāng ñiāndiyo tā rāng sāng jēgi, nī kiawa kacir sāgu yu nā tē tam jē tāng sī gu rā. Rāng sāng jē lē chōng wā tāng sī. Lōb tāng mē lū lē chōng wā sī. Nī ñiāndiyo tī nī lōba tāng mē lū bā lā sō bā. Tāng mā tī rāng sāng jē lē chōng wā tā chē. Lōb tāng mē lū sī ñiāndiyo lōbē kāng sā tā mē lū bē kāng sā. Mē lū bē kāng sā sī tī ñiāndiyo tā chōng bā tā lī sī gu rā. Lōbē kāng sā sī tī tā ñiāndiyo Chirong, Chirmeo Satriwa, Kinshu Shubas, Kinshu Danes, Chong Shubas, Chong Danes, Chirmeo Shubas, Chirmeo Danes, Tasum Shubas, take it to the Lobasigora. Tasum Danes, the Miluba de Dora. Oh, Chisangora. I love the Milu Lecho, Tezusanam Kajachungunati, Sangmatansura. And then Jide Malu Sangarajo, Jigdegi. 지대바 쪽에 겨 마무사게 하라 대소 상마 탐제 돈배서라 대소 상마 돈는 답 주지게 내 산계지 바비 보가 레레게 두고 하래서라 지대 신도 빵매 가서 대대비 선남도 상마 주르되게 세게 주르 세다 주르 대바리 주와서 주디수 동바되게 내 바비 보가 찍두게 산계지 바비 보가게 내 두지게 손남 뒤치기 저시래서 오라. 되는데 그러니까 라사 이거 사제 법이 보관에 탐제 대단로 법이 보가 찍도네 법이 보가 레레레는 두지게 법이 보가 가져 유나 레레레는 두지게 손남 레야 된나시 조주고기 돼서 왔다. 법이 보가 탐제 두지시고 말아 법이 보가 레레 두지랴 손남 된데 고기 돼서 오라. 산제 법이 보관에 탐제 대단로 요로세. 어때 줄라나.
So here, then, picking up with the second verse of this third chapter. So verse 202, it reads, "A single pore of a Buddha is made from 10 times the following amount of merit, the total merit from which all solitary realizers have arisen, the total merit that produced all learners and those beyond learning." And so here, talking about then the amount of merit that is necessary to achieve just a single pore on the body of a Buddha, if we take all of the merit of solitary realizers. And so here in this verse, it is referring to when it says learners and those beyond learning, this is referring to those that are hearers, those of the lesser vehicle and us as ordinary sentient beings. If we were to take together all of the kinds of virtues accumulated by those solitary realizers, by those hearers, by ordinary beings, and multiply that 10 times, that would be enough merit to accomplish a single pore on a Buddha's body. Again, one of those pores that has these right curling hairs. So here, when it talks about, again, the merit accumulated by solitary realizers, as well as all of the kind of merit accumulated by those who are Aryas, or in training Aryas of the lesser vehicle, as well as those beyond training. So here, when we talk about the various types of hearers, we can have different, we usually talk about 8 of them. There are approachers to the stream enterer, those who are abiding in the result of a stream enterer, those who are approaching being a once returner, those abiding in the result of a once returner, those who are approaching being a non-returner, those abiding in the result of being a non-returner, as well as those approaching the state or the kind of result of an arhat, and those that abide in the result of an arhat are those that are beyond learning, right? They have gone beyond samsara. And so here, as it describes all of this vast amount of merit, if we were to accumulate or to put all of that together, that of solitary realizers, those hearers in training and beyond, as well as all of our merit as ordinary sentient beings that leads to rebirth in happier realms, if we were to take all of that together times 10, that would be enough for a single pore, hair pore of a Buddha, not talking about, let alone each individual one. So for each single one of those pores, it would similarly require the same amount of merit to achieve.
Oh yeah. 당아도 솔로가 시방아반이더라. 시방아반이들 든다 쉐거라. 뒤가리 쉐거라서나 법의부가 줍제게 수놈들도 청마수 동네 시거라. 법의부가 탐제 줍에 수놈 견주리지. 법의부가 대탐제 레레레레 강가레레레 맨다맨다 장가 접수만 따라. 법의부가 대탐제 줍제게 수놈 견주리지에서 니 빼제 상부직 줍으려 시거라. 디솔가 시바당 아버지들이다. 어야 뜻된 거래. 나도 그랬어도서나 법의부가 탐제네 개발 집에 선음 강하시도 산제제 고소지 법의부가 탐제 개발 집에 선음 강해 받다. 알아. 대다 가네 교로에 간주르게 더 같은 바서라. 근데 같은 바. 교로에 빼제 상부치도 시에서 네 빼제 상부치도 그래서 거라. 뒤쳐라. 빼제 상부치시. 선음 선음 등이 진이지 개부배제 상본에 직다르신데 대답고 개주받은 중원에 교수 업배제 개주 레레레는 룹질이야 내 선음 때문에 사고 돼서거라 선음 등이 진이지라 선음 단다 공도셰바 등이지 개부배제 상본에 안에 직다르신데 배제 상본에 좀 그래서 직다르신데 대답은 개주받아 배제 상본 개주인데 근데 니 개주 수납 개주 사발 때는 그래서 티셔도 그래서 어야 어야
So sorry, I apologize. I didn't read 203. So again, a single 202 and 203 together is a single pore of a Buddha is made from 10 times the following amount of merit. The total merit from which all solitary realizers have arisen, the total merit that produced all learners and those beyond learning, and the total merit of the entire universe, which, like the universe, is measureless. Each pore of a Buddha likewise arises from that much merit. So each individual pore takes that much merit. And then moving to verse 204 and 205, for the merit necessary to accomplish one of the auspicious marks of a Buddha, it begins then, a single mark of a Buddha is obtained through 100 times the amount of merit needed to produce all of a Buddha's pores. So again, remembering the amount of merit needed for just a single pore, and then imagining each of that, each pore on the Buddha's body needing that amount of merit. To obtain a single one of the auspicious marks of a Buddha, it takes 100 times that amount of merit. And likewise, King, that amount of merit merit completes one auspicious mark. Likewise, from that amount of merit arises each of them up to 80. So again, 100 times the amount of merit needed to produce all of the pores of a Buddha's body, which was the amount described above, then that amount is needed for just a single one of those auspicious marks. And thereby, for each of those 80 auspicious marks, one needs to similarly accumulate that amount of merit as was described in 204.
Oh, yeah. Dandy Karishik Sunangando, Shulga to Bada Tumbani de Redua. Bada Tumbani de Karishigorasana. Peche de Tamje Ruji, Sonam Janjuji, and Sanchi to Gresera. Peche Sama Gajuchiora, Titsama Ruji, Sonam Janjuji, Dab Jage, any sense of Buchik to Gresora, sense Sumjitan in the Chik to Gresora. How they Sholuga to go down Tumbani de Gudua. Oh, the door. Peche Sambu Jajuta Sierra, Dube Sonam So Kain Sida, Peche Sambu Jaju Duji, Sonam Jitso Kajasaku in a take Kain by day, and it Tada Jane, Jatan Bundabja, Turbaye, Kibuchim Sanchi to Gure Sierra, Sanchi to say. Only Sanchi to say. Then it Sane Sumju Turbeju, San Sambu Sumju Turbeju. Sonam Jashi Kayamba, Tilda Tondo Jurbaye, Dawanya Jubu Tubuse, or today, Casada. Sensambu Sumju Tubchi, Lea Sonam Kayamba, Tida Sama to Dumne, Tida Tondo June, Tondo Jubalatene, Dawanya Jubu Tubures, Sanjak Jubu de Tubures, or Tislamna.
No. So then moving to verse 206 and 207, here this is explaining the amount of merit that is necessary to accomplish a single one of those signs that mark a sort of special being. And so a single sign of a great person comes from 100 times the mass of merit needed to produce all 80 marks. So if you were to take the merit needed for a single mark and then all of those combined together and multiply that 100 times over, that is what is necessary to produce a single sign of a great person, of those, and actually it says 30 signs because the curl between the brows, the swirl of hair between the brows and the crown protrusion are a little bit special. So through 1,000 times the vast merit that causes 30 of the marks arise like the full moon, the swirl of hair between the brows. So here again, taking the amount of merit that would be necessary to cause 30 of the marks and multiplying that 1,000 times, that is what is necessary in order to achieve that swirl of hair between the brows.
Well, this was, oh yeah, that's Sanjay. Jubu Dubji, Sonam Seda, Jubu Dubji, Sonam Tonda, Tongjurgis, Tonda, Jubu Dubji, Sonam, Tonda, Jural, then it took the Dugres, the Shagdo. Oh, they took the Dugres, they Sholga Karishagdosana, Jabada Kubani de Shagdo, Sholga Jabada Kubani, da. Oh, Tene de Karisusan. Jubu Yene Sonam Kaase, Jubu Tuji Sona Kaim Batada, Tonda Jane, Tomba Yes, and Dub Tonda Ja, and it Tomba Tege, Karin Duguresena, and it Chitu, Tarne Menawa, Jobe, Tutur Jeva, Tutur Dugrese, Sanja Tutur, Roa, till it, but Tarman was Tutoria, she could tell you, Kachebu, the daughter of the Cham, ever returned, Toy, Jay with the Tongisera. Don't get says it's the Tagarona. Oh, take the Mogache. Yeah. Jubu in a sonam gatonda Janet Dombaye. Shizu Tarni Menawase. Shizu Tarni Megawa. And it could be Tuktur what she is. Tukturge. Send out in the Tagarona, I say, never in the Toyera. What is Wara? Tidugudesha, Yabatisera. And it could be Cardo Sena. Ah, 죽도록 손남 저안에서 죽도록 저기 손남 저하게 시구라 납 저하지 지교자도 팀부사야 저하세다 저안에 봄라 짠내 줘봐야 진짜 봄라 짠내 수주로 발래 아니 뚱중아 최제동 아니 가서 지주 뚱중 그래서 죽도 손남 저안에 봄라 짠내 줘로 발래 아니 뚱중아 최제고 칭조안에 쉐버죠. 어디 산재게 아니 그 수구 찍대 누구다 수구야 연대 된데 산에 두고래 시티시에도 야 뒤질랍나.
So, then coming in verse 208 and 209, this describes above here we had the amount of merit that was necessary to produce this forehead swirl. And if we are to take that amount of merit and multiply it 100,000 times, one achieves the amount of merit necessary to for the crown protrusion of the protector. So here in 208, it reads, for 100,000 times the merit required for the forehead swirl is produced for the protector's crown protrusion, the top of which is imperceptible. So there are sort of extraordinary qualities to this crown protrusion, being able to put out miraculous powers and so forth. But the top of it is imperceptible to certain ordinary beings. And here, then continuing, and this comes maybe the numbering is different, but still in 208, you should realize that a single Dharma conch of the one who possesses the 10 powers arises from the amount of merit that produces the crown protrusion. So here, when it comes to then the kind of amount of merit, particularly for the entirety of the form body of the Buddha, is then, sorry, I didn't read the last line of that. You should realize that a single Dharma conch of the one who possesses the 10 powers arises from the amount of merit that produces the crown protrusion multiplied 1,000,000, 10 million times.
뭐야 다들 들어도 또 손남 체매 양에서 지난 산재 그 연대 전산부 송배제 산부 개조를 써보 속이 그 연대식으로 구속 연대도 시거라 그래서 손남 체매 양에서 지대를 지대 초근도 초니까서 주른지 말로 줘봐다 세단된 바 바삼 쉬어서 지다 산재가 때르지 지다 와신도 가져가지 고래때 저트에서 말해서 다이나가라도 대박이야 저 덤네 로로로 제제 저 줘봐 인송거라 그래서 남 체매장 지다를 지대 초근도 주르지 말로 줘봐다 아니 세단된 바 라삼 쉬어서다 산재기 연대도 들어와 네 주변에 손님 책이 요 말이었어. 대나 지된 봐주고 네지 rob도 바신에 돈달이야. 네 산지지인데 되는데 책이를 들고 그래서 지다와신도 소문에 나왔던데 대박이가 된다 저번에 송도 야 되려오셨냐.
So then the next verse, 209, is teaching that really, although the kinds of merit and the qualities of a Buddha's body, we're really talking about the qualities of a Buddha's form body, are incalculable to the perspective of the minds of those to be tamed. They are said to have a sort of limit, or we give like, oh, this is the amount of merit needed for the achievement of whatever quality it might be. But in reality, we can't fully express the amount of that, right? But for the sake of being able to have disciples generate faith and so forth, a kind of a quantity is given. So in 209 it reads, thus, even though the merit is incalculable, it is merely said to have a limit, just as one expresses all the regions of the universe by subsuming them in the 10 directions. So here, although it really is almost impossible to express the qualities qualities of a Buddha, or the sort of amount of merit necessary for them, for the benefit of disciples, of those in training, for them to give rise to faith. These kinds of amounts are expressed.
Oh yeah, this one.
Yes.
Oh yeah, then got the Sholuka Chuji did wa. Sholuka Chuji did Karishigosine. Yeshi gets so tired to the Shigdwa. Sunam gets so tired Kusuki and dead as to good Shesara. Da Yeshi gets so tired then any Chukuto to do good rest at this Shigdwa. Oh, the Sholuka Chuji did it. Take Karisungdosina. Kanju Sanje Suku Yeshe. Kyuyan Tedara. Jigdenshin se Sanje Sugu Duji Jutia Chemeba Konduya Sheva Nashin Sigora. And then Shemese Jidemba Namje Didiris, Dagajaris, Chechita Washidu, Sheldo Meba Des, Shetue Omariso, Shemese. There's a Chujigo, Kuda Chidar Shedu. And Ishi Chugun Duji, Ishi gets so delicate, and Teveja, Shutue Omaresigora, Chida. Kusuga yonde desugora, tugi yonde pangdoki yonde desugora, chugusera, tituji teleja, choto kala, choto mebatabure sugora, sheldos ni cheme shelwa maruza, hakotu maru sersira. Ane, dimmerati, sanjeji sugu chuyan tetan jikdemba namjene, tayeba shedo meba, tayeba yunangan juchita washindu shetuya yomarese. Tese chugu chutete teleja, 아니 망아서 사고라 방도주 연den이들아 대대 telejane 가서래 대단 쉐도 여바 타예버 쉐도 메바라 타예버레서라 뒤치락서나 됐어요
Just
아주지데 야
So then for verse, and I'm going to read this as 210 because that's what we have in this version. Although it, because we had those two verses counted as 208, it might be seen as 211 somewhere. But here, as for the describing, then we see that there are limitless causes for the form body of a Buddha, and even more so, really here describing the way in which the accumulation of wisdom is likewise infinite or vast, sort of beyond our knowledge. So in 210 or 211 it reads, if the causes of a Buddha's form body are immeasurable, like the universe, then how could the causes of the truth body be measurable? So here, when it is the case that the causes that lead to the form body of a Buddha are really beyond our estimation, are beyond our knowledge, beyond our understanding, then even more so the kind of qualities of a Buddha's mind, the qualities of realizations and abandonments, or realizations and eliminations, it is even more so the case that they are sort of immeasurable or infinite, beyond our ability to understand them.
yeah, this one.
This
당한도 되르다나. 시바데라와. 시바데. 중요데. 등이게 내부 타야 버들어. 다 손납다 시기 소인 내부 타야 봐. 장매바 쪽으로서 뜻이었어라. 네가 세도선데 솔로가 중이 들어와. 중이 따오라. 내가 탐제견에 그 총을 내부 탐제견에 그 총을 해서 내부 자식께 줄나서 그 탐제게 교대 총을 사버리나 텔레드 마부사네 내부 자신부 누구여래서 왔다 교대 누가 전부 뭐 들으시러 지난 뺄자고와 신나주다에서 되게 손에 충주시를 살아 대기대배 신 자신부 쇼시 파서 자신부 되올 미망부터에서 개보다 즉 코르다 마음이다 간것이 되네 근데 자신부 이렇게 세계와 어떻게 근데 가시도서나 탐제견의 주총을 내서 내부 자신께 줄나서 치ing어보 지신 나설로서부터 선택에도 충주지나 내부의 자신부 끼기도 와서 규디 펼쳐보 이렇게 저라 난게 손남다 개와다 대바 가려는 충주지에서나 뺀 내부에 대바에는 남이 전부냐 그래 개와에나 내부 대화 전부냐 그래서 아주 대바 충주지에 가요 말을 삼자 남매지기와 말을 개화 충조지나 낭매치기와 말 뺀제부 전부 연구를 시키 시행하지다. 탐재기네 주총래 제부 자신 깨교 나왔어. 지금부터 산지의 교내 빵매 배서 산지의 고다 그 구수다 지금 투기 연대도 도시거라. 산지의 교내 주파도 매발에 제부 빠에 그라 산지의 주파 매발에 때는 제부 때는 서바 매발에 용하는데 시험을 거르지 되시거라. 제부 빠에 그러니까 삼다체스 제부빠도 여바데 용투에 제부 빵미 용구데 세르세레 도와 전다 페나싱 나루타데 타모 춘조선 춘조지나 진 담마데 파게스노 첨부 차지어 데세 첨부 대월이아니 제부 코란데 제부 뽕다 따에서 마다 전에 책배 랑보시 마을에서 테조루루세 때는 때set인데 차루가도서 겹투에 근데 신가치 묻기도 어서요라 요 대부 자신 못 제발 주나세 신고 볼았는데 펠자 첨부 연나스라 산제제 거에 와 안에 빠매봐 대저 주빠매봐 대저 때문에 아니 대부 빠도 매봐 근데 용기 요버때 매고 해서리자 빠도 매봐 삼다체서 빠도 여봐도 용해요마 빠도 매봐 해서 진짜서 대sam도 세도 솔직히 상관 내고 말해서 대sam대에서 처태했어요 말해서 오라 대주셨는 데서 야 솔가 좀 봐.
So here, the next verse, then this seems to be 212 in Geshe-la's version, but 211 for us. It's talking about then the kind of way in which causes increase or can lead to larger results. So here it says, if in all cases a vast effect arises from a small cause, then one should cease to believe that a measurable effect comes from the immeasurable causes of a Buddha. So here, if we can see, like, for example, when it comes to material things, something like a Nagarjuna tree, one of these trees that becomes a very vast tree that could shelter all kinds of people and things and so forth. If that kind of large result comes from a really tiny cause, maybe this tree has a particularly small seed, but in that same way, if it is like that for material things, then how much more so for the case of a Buddha whose qualities of their form, body, as well as of their mind are really immeasurable. And so the kind of causes that lead to a Buddha are immeasurable. And so with the principle of the fact that causes increase or they lead to larger effects, we should recognize that those immeasurable causes will most certainly lead to an immeasurable effect. And so here, when we are talking about the kind of increase of the result that comes from causes, this is really reminding us too that we shouldn't disregard a small non-virtue thinking that, oh, it's not important, it's not really going to lead to anything, or disregard a small virtue thinking that it's not going to lead to anything. Because again, even those small causes can lead to great results. We can experience a great deal of suffering or a great deal of happiness from quite a small kind of a cause. So here, as it sort of goes through in the commentary, that even a tiny little seed can give rise to this huge sort of tree that could shelter the four classes of the army of a king, all of their horses and elephants and all of those kinds of things. And so if that is the case for material things, something like a tree, then how much more so for immaterial things, including that of a Buddha? The Buddha's qualities are basically immeasurable, incomprehensible to us. So too, if we look at the causes leading to Buddhahood, when we see that those are beyond our estimation, well, then how much more so is that going to lead to an effect that is beyond what we can even imagine?
야, 당연히 솔로가 조금 더 주신이 되시기도 제 가르치기도 세나 대부 규대 대부 강강하게 처래서 수남제 처대 대부 거래 규래 이시지 처대 대부 거래 규래 되시거라 수남제 처대 sukui gyure, ishi tsode, chugui gyure, sitinre shekdwa. Di drebu kange gyuyin ba, so nipu di drebu kanda kange gyuyin ba di shekwa, sholwa nidwa. Choksumda chushingi desera, predwa. Sanje namje sukuni, sunam tsole jungwa di. sunamje tsodege kare yungoresa sanje namje sukui gyuchige ware sokora. sunamje tsosu chambata nyenje chanju visim sangbu chatosu kanga, tabji chatosu kanga sigora. 되게 그 수기 꾸이는데 수기 꾸이는데 또 저거도 꾸던 송던 세라 또 좋은 거라 꾸숙잖아요. 셴을 때는 이제 연대도 가려운 뒤래. 수나지에 남겨 수군이 수군이 수남 초래 중화돼. 수남제 초대 추수지 꾸니기는 또 수구 락지 조지스도. 지단데 그 탑되게 이식 저래 이식 초대가 수남제 줄라던 루로 네 쪼데스요라 수남지 초대게 추수지 꾸니기 나는 쪼 수구일락지 조지스도 이 시기 초대를 추수지 꾸니기 나는 쪼 추구일락지 조지스도 쪼르마도 탑도 시럽니가 될 상계 고마 도발라 수구도발레 거래 추구도발레 거라 그 쪼여 전에 시거라 그래 따딩가도 쇼로가 조금 주신이 되겠어라 그래도 그러니까 상계 남게 수군에 수남 초래 중화돼서 수구디 또 수남지 초사발 때는 좀 그래서 최지고된 노르데나 개버의 시초래 중세 최고대 갈래 때는 좀 그래서네 또 이시기 초사발 때는 좀 그래서 가르스는 꾸이연데도 간가 상부 차네 신의 상부 제바다 된데 차네 그 독교하다 두개 연대데 가르스 소소 상부 땅네 시럽지 랑도르 제체 데르데 마데 데르 랑도르 제네 메시베 몽바도 세계 제제네 몽바 탐제 세바다 세제 탐제 시험바도 연구라 이시기 딱서 전에 연구하라 어디인데 가서 최지군에 노르도나 개부 이시초래 중앙시 조대로와 대다가나 손딩이 수남다시기 손딩이 산제니니 토베교서 니가 대 산제 토베교래 니가 제단 수구 교도래 추구 교래도 그래 조대 수군 도제들의 탑기지 지교하래 조대 추군 도제들의 이시기 섬으로 땅에 소설랑도 제네 메시베 몽바세네 시제 시험바제네 방바다 또 배게 되는 게 기억하라 어디 전에 대해서 거라 대다가나 초딩이 산제니니 토베교서 초딩이 산제게 고반 토베교래서 추수기꾼이 추수지 꾸니단 데베 강사신 줄고 여라 어떤 교회 교회에서 오라 대다외나 초등이 산제니니 토베교 아니 대다라 너나 소남다 이시 초네 템버져서 어떤 너나 산제지 고반 토베체도 장바다니 이제 장주심 집어 주든 서발라 소바 소남지 소도 줄다 땡고래서 대자 마인바 메다바 동해와 동아담에 조 동반이라 소바 시제 내로 랑도르네 신지말로바 셰베 시럽되라 때네 아니 이시기서 빵도지 연대니 보대 탐제 시험바대다 셰발이야 몽바 탐제 세바 로바진바다 녀몽바다 몽바 세바데 삼르다네 세고여라 디션에서도 대다와나 초원등이 산제인이 토베 주스 대단 도나 순남다 이시초 내때바 도나 순남다 이시초 초니데 산제지 고바 토발이야 조외 주르더니 나라주티 교드네 때때네 때사고래 소가라 때버저스 야 어디슬람나 되게 줄에
So then the next two verses address what sort of accumulation, the accumulation of which causes lead to what results. So here in our version, this is verse 212 and 213, where it says, in brief, king, the Buddha's form bodies arise from the collection of merit, and their truth body is born from their collection of wisdom. So here, when it comes to what result comes from what cause, basically the collection of merit, including all sort of good and positive actions toward others, that method side, that all of those positive actions that we do in dependence upon others, that is what leads to the form body of a Buddha. And all of the kind of collection of wisdom, as in developing our wisdom and insight based upon eliminating wrong knowledge or lack of knowledge, is then what leads to the truth body of a Buddha, or the qualities of a mind of a Buddha. Now, in general, we can sort of say that this is the collection of merit is mainly the cause of the form body of a Buddha, and the collection of wisdom is mainly the cause of the truth body, because we need both of those. They're sort of connected to one another. But when we think about all of the good qualities of a Buddha's body, those really are achieved through doing good toward others. And all of the qualities of a Buddha's truth body, of their mind, come from developing our knowledge, from eliminating misunderstanding or wrong understanding, nescience. And actually, when we think about, and then coming to understand the way that things actually are, so that a development of our wisdom, accumulating the collection of wisdom, is what leads to the qualities of abandonment and realizations within a Buddha's mind. And those kinds of actions that we do positive toward others are the main causes that lead to the form body of a Buddha. But in brief, we need both of these, right? So here it says, in verse 213, thus these two collections cause the attainment of Buddhahood. Hence, in short, always devote yourself to merit and wisdom. So we need both of these things. We need to develop the method side, those good actions toward others, love and compassion and so forth, as well as developing the wisdom side, the wisdom recognizing impermanence and suffering and selflessness, developing our knowledge such that we eliminate any kind of unknowing or nescience and come to understand the way that things are. And so, in brief, if we want to achieve all of the qualities of a Buddha's body, we should devote ourselves to merit and wisdom.
Oh, d'accord. 주시된 데서
Lare.
주시된 데서
Jison.
뭐야, 다 되는 거리네. 얼고 다야 나본 걸로 찍도. 야.
It's tricky on those iPads when you press the wrong thing, just touch the wrong thing.
야, 다이비. 다 디지털로션 카메라 싸워도 요새 말이야. 야, 우리 버투지 말때 먹었지. 간디 텐데스도 하고. 너도네 템바서 그러시네 가시. 버투주베 뭐에 값어. 알레 버투주베 뭐에 값인데 대지 송샤스. 텐데바들 로요다. 이게 나오는데 아니 tenju yen dor de ne temba shebar chatis o tande chida na jo tongba ni tube riba ko urwa phungbu sajje ni le phungbu chochen se jirwa ane kyole ya tene sajje ni le phungbu chochen rangshin ki tongde tenjin de bar jo ai bechire ya kansa chochen ro phungbu le tene ta ba kansa chochen rangu ne tube tongba inde tenjin de bar jo ai bechis ta ko urwa tenje ko tenje debar jwa de samlutan de sunam je so de yong ko de se ora rangshin je tongba se de te abo je samlutan de yishi je so de zo de tongba ni to be shirab de le shi je so se ra chu gu ju ju zo de ba ji dan shirab le da mang bu ya ra te inde ko te tu je to ba lo de zo yishi je so sa ya de cho je to ba lo de tenje debar jwa se de ku so mang bu je le ten ko de Thabkhe chato se da ka ga yong de se 어떤데지 쉐도 tenjen jebar jong yin ba de she de za cha jin ne ba de yong go da cha wa xian ne ba de chi so ne rang wen ne dong ba se ko na rang xin jin de re se chi le zu zu sa se ke yo ma ro rang wen ne tu ba me ro ten de chou du zan le ga chi go ra te le ai ni pa chi ta sha yo ra sa ko de su nam ji so da shi so se de so tenjen jebar jong chu de sam de cha ji rong wa 자와 지기 여바디래. 그나 강사를 전에 풍부하고 나네 풍부하고 레레레네 말에 풍부하고래 빼고 타대시네 요 말에 시대 동발에서라 남녀 감주 섬대 강사들네 신매가 쳐도 라와도 좀 강사 매가 쳐도 어느 가게 매르에서 말이다서 풍부가 저 내가 지친 게 여러 속을 내가 지르서 내가 지르 그래서 내가 지르자니 그 이시기 소사거라 택바사거라 개와사거라 강가사거라 수남지대 수남만 벨레사거라 자 땡전 되버는 중앙에 섬들 자세 중앙에 온 거라 자세 중앙에 되는 데서 이제 장바 대화도 트렌드 동을 계속 내적 강가에 온 거라 대성교한다 대질람 내가 보다 동방의 두배 그나 리파티기 두세 동방의 섬을다는데 이시기 소다 대 조용 거도 되네 대 가서라 땡제 레버리 좀 삼을던도 자주 해봐 tikpa yoba, kewa yoba, dribu tewa yoba, tume yoba, tume de teju yoba, tezu kanka yungudwa. Ne tabki chati yungudwa, reso o tende je sungudwa, teji labchena.
So here, just to read a little bit from Gyaltsabje's commentary here, and this is talking about the actual the dedication from the 60 verses on reasoning of Nagarjuna. And so here, it's basically explaining how all of the sort of scriptures of the Buddha, all of his teachings should be understood within these two kind of categories. So here, if we are trying to understand, for example, putting forth the syllogism, like these contaminated, appropriated aggregates are empty of inherent existence because they are dependently originated. Here, when one thinks about the sign, like the reason that is in that syllogism of dependent origination, this is really getting at more the method side, the fact that causes and effects, actions and agents and so forth work logically. All actions are sort of suitable. They are functioning within there not being any sort of inherent existence. And so really the thesis of that they are empty of inherent existence, that gets mostly at the kind of wisdom side, right? That lack of any sort of solid, real inherent existence. And when one thinks then about the reason for that, this dependent origination, that gets at the kind of method side. So even within this single syllogism, we can kind of see how these contain both the method and the wisdom parts of this. So when we think about, like, for example, our contaminated, appropriated aggregates, we're trying to locate, say, the person within that. Well, the person isn't any of those contaminated, appropriated aggregates, isn't any one of those five. It's not somehow outside of that, right? We can't point to anything within that as being the person, but yet this person does actions, right? The person does something and they accumulate merit. They do something negative, they accumulate non-virtue. They experience happiness and suffering as a result of those actions that they have done. They are able to come to an understanding of emptiness and extricate themselves from samsara. So although there is no findable person, we can't point to anything within those aggregates or outside those aggregates that exist in the way that it appears, actions have consequences. So here, thinking about dependent origination really gets at the kind of method side. Again, recognizing the viability of actions even without there having some sort of intrinsic existence. And this leads as well into thinking about compassion and love for others and the kind of method points of the path. And so when one is determining that there is no inherent existence, that doesn't, having negated that, lead to, well, there's just nothing at all, but rather that dependent origination side comes in, really representing the method. So here, just sort of summarize what is said here in this part of the commentary, it explains that really looking at that sign or that reason of dependent origination really represents or gets at habituating ourselves, developing the accumulation of merit. Whereas when we're looking at the sort of thesis of no inherent existence, that is getting at the side of the accumulation of wisdom.
Oh yeah. This is no matter. Oh, today that in the case of our tele producer. Tawa tele padunga so de tendrele tele paguara. Tanto condizione sarà. Rawan de trubaio marese. Mambo so tension driver chile anil blue party tasha de telepa imba the maimba nam shasha ese. Tae tunda de yingone chikanga chile zugune yo marese. Yine ya ko chawa cheme de kaya meba tongba chedal ho mare. Tension driver jo chawa chiyore shenda punga bore re chawa cheba de ta chawa cheba do yora. O tinde inde ko tende sogwal tene chawa cheba de tugudwa. Around the trube tongbas namjing as around the trube sambatege. And you don't want you don't know that trada near the kagachi, you couldn't win it, you another shache. And the shenjata, chimon, what is a king, what are Yamuta Tezo, Yamuta Yamu Pasha Mabushavera. Tezo tae de tongba combatege takutwa. Yamumbata, tea paksha to society. Round the trube tongba, you don't know, tra, nis, cadena. Not the Shibuchi, you win you with Summit never do. Diana go and it came into us and okay, Marda, Pumbunga about that is a sober attendant. Legacy get the Yam the Rurus and the legacy with a teacher watching get attention, the bunch of this watching your resident. And it tended in upset in Gudwa. Tea and the only Timbani said the Abusha to the tea, Nasu Gudwa. Tongbani is it, don't them better. Tongbani in another mare, Kunzu Timbasade. Kunzu Timbas, Kunzu did somebody Omar, Kayomar, and the Shana Mandis and Gora. Oh, Tezo Chawache Tunge, Kunzu some to Chawache Tunge, Teja Devil you want some to Chawache Tunge. You rangunate in the Chawache and get a meva. Oh, Tinde some Lutana, Timbani Namsadi Abushat who days and Gora. Tia Bushama do not tomba residone, Tamete Kanga Mesena, Thabkhe Sade Kanga Tondura. Oh, Chetonga Batazo, so de Kunzu de Shakure, Shaku Shato said. Kunzu said that Jumbari came at a Kunzu Sigdo, Jumbasido, Omarisana, and it subject to Major Rota, Yawata, Yada, Chitunga, to Mary and it to make the trend of some shuk somebody Omara, some Thabkhe Sade New York. Or tea and the Tisha was government, Chambani, Jushin, Sanjay Kovanto said, Kaimana, Omara, tea and the Thabkhe Sadela. Shirabji Chaniga Diabokore. Thabkhe Chadi Abu Yala Chambani, Chanjusan Yola, Teja Debana, Chaji Nobody. Tunga Yoba, Tewan Yoba, Mone Yoba Tiku Yora. Oh, Tindu Kasura. Tambani de Abushash Batalia, Tongba that Tendiniga Abushash. Kunzu de Yo Marisana, Kaya Megachana, and the Cheddar Lungere Shavora. Tindu Dendua. Oh, yes, Kasura. Ralula, oh, the tension and the cutting was in Ralula and semi driven Namsha Yomaris, Kunzu did somebody Yomaris, Tongbaris, and it Sema that is a Megasadura, Milue Samaset is a Megasadura. It ain't any Kasura. O Sanjay Sukun to Megachavura. Thabkhe Kangan Megachavura. Oh, today Namsha in the Kasura. Tambani Namsa de Abu Shashambalaya, Tende like a Chaji Roma de Shaku Yara. Oh, Tisha to a Shakures, Tiji Shadaya, Tijilamna, to do Islam de.
So here, another point that is important that is made in this commentary is here then below, it explains how when one is determining the view, really, when we are looking at, one does so mainly through dependent origination, recognizing that the way that things appear to us as having this kind of autonomous, independent existence, they don't exist in that way. There is nothing that is independent of our mentally labeling and so forth. But at the same time, when we eliminate such autonomous existence, it doesn't fall into the extreme of nihilism, in that we still see how cause and effect function. So here, this is connected with a proper understanding of the two truths. If it is the case that we don't have a good understanding of the two truths, there is the danger of falling into a kind of nihilistic view. All objects appear to us like something that is pleasant or unpleasant, our friend, our enemy. They appear to be existent from their own side. They appear to have this kind of autonomous existence in and of themselves. And while when we examine, we can see that they don't actually exist in that way. It's not as though they're non-existent or they're just mere sort of confusion, but rather we can see that as we understand through the reasoning of dependent origination, that when causes and conditions come together, there are experiences. There is the functioning of actions and agents and so forth. So in terms of understanding the two truths in a kind of complementary rather than contradictory way, emptiness is the ultimate truth, but we need to posit emptiness in such a way as it does not undermine the conventional. The conventional also exists, and not in a way that some would say is just sort of like a mistake, where it's doesn't have actual efficacy in terms of the actions. And so when we look at the kind of teachings of Gelama Tsongkhapa, for example, he emphasized the fact that emptiness is not nothingness, and it doesn't mean then that the conventional is just mere falsity. If we have that kind of an understanding, that really hurts the method side of the path, that merit side. If we don't have a proper understanding of the conventional, it is harmful to our being able to develop compassion for others, for example. So here we need to have a kind of understanding of the two truths that leaves room for there to be actual functioning, the kind of dependent origination. If our understanding of the two truths is such that, like, because things are empty, they don't have any sort of conventional existence, that eliminates all kinds of actions and agents, that is very damaging to that method side. So here, this emphasizes, Gyaltsab-je in his commentary is emphasizing the importance of having an understanding of the two truths that are complementary, not contradictory, in such a way as what we actually sort of believe in the power of the actions that we are doing.
That's what I ever done this sago, you know. And it never made some sago in this assembly and Yangayora. Keva Mambu thought in the Mambu sago and the Sanke that you know, Magaresha, something. Kilo was or the two some some kilo leloche and Yangayora. Or in this area, my this is Shagudwa. Oh, Telian Dorten Geshe, that Mohosity. Oh, Sanjay Drubala thought tired, but in the sago, you know. And then the street took it some and a low shum do that. Shum quay or my race at this year. So Mambosa would a in a low shum the took my race and low shum bachagumares, Simju Chagumares or this year. This all look at Janga did Redua. Janga say and Nicardo. Janga battery, that one. So look at Janga battery Tamazo. Yeah, because. Rigba dane long demba sedo. Rigba dane long demba. Ane kardo uje chebe kyudeye. Ane kare chanju trube sunamne. Tela kilu mecha ose otere da. Kilu mecha ote kare jani segodo sena. Lana mebero chanju tobalaya sunam je chotaya butende sogo ishigi chotaya butende sago na. Thabkhe mare samsa gilu go mechaas lelo mechaas ra tayong medu sam tinte masam sura kares ne lusim ge tunge tada nyamsu nyom go ba le dan sem ge tunge tam ge nyamsu nyom go ba so dara le dan sem ge le dan le dan sem ge tunge taya ba nyamsu nyom go ba ra le dan sem ge tunge be Sanje koban toge da nyomo panyalam bezu majene ta tunge taya ba nya jenge ma na shinje te ro o dende te me go ba cha yo ra nyamsu nyo go ba so taya ba te da so ni ba ri ba da long da che ba sum je ni ba tembo ke ba to ho de te ta dende ke lu ju yo ma de se ro ane ke tunge de to sama ta da che wa 미시베 뭔가 다 쪼여요 그래서 어딜 심시 차지요 말해서 뒤날 송샤스우다 가르수다 소바 리버다 제바 숨지 네바 템보 제바 도지 제바 손도날 텐데 송샤스 심시 차고 말해서 아니 다든지 말이야 다들다 어디시거다 소남제 소 텐데 마부사 예시 소 텐데 마부사 거나 네 길로 봐 심지 차야게 네바 요라 좀 거라 어디 심반 매차세 소니 소발라 네 길로 봐 매차와 담바더라 어디 가서도 자주도 심게 발라 소남 타야 보다 주대 산제 토바다 네 밤에 신대기 규세계 산제 톱라고 어인게다 다 담보는 디말로 제가 솔로가 주도 받으다가죠 솔로가 주도 셰 주된제대해서 그래서나 야 다고나 로시 가서 초남 권도 남가다 하셔야 되라 초남 권도 남가다 사다 주다 메다 롱라 시대를 타야 대신도 동해 semje 타야 되세 라 초남 권도 사다 주다 메다 남가라 속바다 시신나절서 타야 마무여라 자가메 시브르시오라 초남 권나 남가다 사다 주다 메다 롱 시대를 타야 대신도 어떤데 장마부 여번나 신세 동해 semje 타야 되세 동해와다 semje 동해 영에 타야 버튼데 요래시거라 네 타야 되세 이나야 semje 타야 되다니 장주 sembe 닝제에서 semje 타야 버튼데 요나야 장주 sem바가 닝제에 돈에 sem베게 자와라서 버튼데 전에시거라 닝제에 동해 달에 장제des 동해에 장내 로버친게다 지금 상계게 장주 sem바도 상마게 강라 간데게 코랑게 나와다 팀베 잡았다네고 최선이 야탄게야 탐에 마무요 레시오라 심제대다네 장주 sembe 닝제에 동해 달에 장제데 산제니랑 거버네세 산제니 공부하려야 거버네바 근데 생게 요래서요라 야 디지털락션 되도
So, turning next, and again, Geshe-la's verse number seems to be one ahead of ours, but beginning with verse 214, which is giving advice for us not to become discouraged in terms of accumulating these two collections. So there's a brief teaching and then a more extensive explanation. And in brief, it comes then in 214, where, if we're hearing about the amount of merit that is needed to accomplish these various things, there's the danger of thinking like, oh, this is impossible. There's no way that I could do this, and becoming discouraged or despondent at this. And so it says, you should not be discouraged about accumulating the merit for obtaining awakening, since there are reasons to be reassured set forth by both scripture and reasoning. So here we might have this kind of thought like, oh, this is impossible for me to accomplish this kind of unsurpassed enlightenment. But here we shouldn't become discouraged in that way. If we don't make an effort, yes, we will continue to just experience unending suffering within samsara of body and mind. But actually, if we generate this attitude of bodhicitta and pursue Buddhahood, we don't have to experience those infinite sufferings of body and mind, and we are able to easily accomplish the two collections. There are many sort of reassurances that are given to us in scripture and also through reasoning. So rather than feeling discouraged, we should actually feel joy in pursuing the accumulation of these two collections. And then it continues getting into, again, like advising us not to become discouraged at accumulating the collection of merit, and not to become discouraged in terms of accumulating the two collections together. So these are divided into many different topics, but beginning with the infinite merit that comes from generating this attitude of bodhicitta, as it says in verse 215. In all directions, space, earth, water, fire, and wind are immeasurable. So too, it is acknowledged the dukkha of sentient beings is immeasurable. So just in the same way that we can't really measure any of these elements or directions, space, and so forth are immeasurable, so too, the dukkha of suffering beings is immeasurable. But continuing into verse 216, through a bodhisattva's love and compassion, those countless sentient beings are led out of their dukkha and definitely brought to Buddhahood. So just in the same way that we have these sentient beings who are experiencing dukkha, this is something that is limitless beyond any sort of count. There are also countless beings working for their benefit through, and particularly through a bodhisattva's love and compassion. Those countless sentient beings are led out of their dukkha and definitely brought to Buddhahood.
Oh yeah, that and that did is on Gasura. Changes symbol so what in the church so champagne to get Lando net out in it in the channel. So in a course, so some year on she saba Timalubu so what in the Samultane. And Koya come get Nico Giluba Mecha, Lella, which Kavutone, Raw. Oh, she was young good case and your mother bed Kavutone. Shindu Kayakon, Chanju Simba said, simply turned over to the caution Toshiton turned to Guerra. Kalekando Tandang and some sort of Jenny, Yomara, Ting as some Gora. Then the Maris were a coupe. Till a journey bay, so Kavuda, Kibuda, Tendeto, the Dixon, some Mill Panto, Simjel Panto, something. And the Kavuton the Juna, Kaleto Mara. Oh, Ting. Chanju Sambacho Dange or social Yamsolaya or Tendesi, Shumgo Mare, Carsore, Lela Wucheko, Toya Yungres, Tishegora, Tangan Sologa, Chogia Baterita. Oh, Tendesa, Chanju Sambala so what can do, Chusum Gayude, Shumber Mejas, oh, Judy Sanje Tobala, Lo Shumber Mejas, the Tangora. Che caresse tengo dosena di ogni ban. Solo che ci vieta, churguda o te tu shedwa. Te dare temper ne tenesudo o te dare september ne batene. Chanju sim ge shembe to do chanju sim di kesarina. Menya mnya rose ko menya ne nyeve ne ga bina ko ke wa to dugora. Ke wa pe dugora. Caresse ko simje te chero ko no yo solo dansara. Tini nye de ko lu chowe ta do lu cho so no ko shembe do ye da sanje ko ban thoye chon ma do yo ma ro. Ti inde ko ni ku we ne da da jamjang de jin do ye ne da. Men de tem be ne da khala de se ne choma de sanje ko ban thoye de kyo le do yo de si yo ra. Ko choye ko na de te do lu dansara. O ti inde te dar tember ne te ne so ra. 아니 매년함 예야로 니코 되는다. 그저 순환 텐데 용도 참자 고양이야 제 때문에 제 되게 옛날야 대하고 류초에 던다 소다 개화를 두고 요래. 근데 이제는 개화 saksabar에 되거래. 그거야 오늘 공대 팬도를 엘라보레서지. 길로 버치고 말해서라. 다 된대선 거라. 그들 때문에 되는 명예와 엄냐야로 양다 랑바네 송데서 장주 선바서지나 심지에 등주베체도 심지에 등지게 주든 이제 동배 주든 기와 주든 주든 상마 가래이나 중개 삼도 다 이제는 전셔도라 양다 랑바네 송데 밤이 조냐 된도아 밤이 조냐 다와서 심지에 때문에 제 된데서 고양이서 대변 내거버지 이나야 그와서 되요래서 그 소외 때리지 누구라 상마 강한 제버 상마 탐제 심지에 될 누구라 밤이 조냐 심지에 남 지로 타에 지나 심지에 타에베 돈다 주외로 그 심지에 인디 맹아주 나시 수수인데데 미리 제버를 줄로 제버던데 삼려 마라 수이나 대 돈다 주외 수수 내가 가야기야 대 제셔요라 심지에 타에베 돈다 삼을다데 제부데 타에베 돈다 제부 타에베 민기요라 뭐지 제나 심지에 탐제가 된다 시는 거지 심지에 탐제 상제배 줄을 규지시도 심지에 드라마 버신도 선한 드라마 버사고 그래서 와라 양다 람바네 손데서 chanju sembe tombane lambane sonde ene kaasere pami jurja sonam namse pami je dagase chemuche de kuyaya de tebe inasigora 타에 신은 심지에 신이세 제부 타에 봐요 그래 심지에 타에 봐 뒤도 다선다 수능 타에 땅매주 수능 타에 봐 뒤다도 매매 봐 용용 봐 누구야래 타에 되는 상계니 아니 타에 토미 가시차 봐 어야 수능 타에 봐 소주나 시고라 아니 그 타에 되나서 상계니 타에 도미가서 타에 버튼데 사고는 상계 고방 톱투고 말했음 갈래 가보랬음 삼고 말했어 야 뒤질러셔나 좀
So here, then moving into our version of verse 217 and 218, that says that with those causes, it is easy to accomplish Buddhahood. So here, when we think about there being infinite sentient beings, and also there are infinite beings, bodhisattvas, who are working for their benefit, who, based upon their having developed their own mind, are able to teach to others, are able to lead them out of their state of dukkha by teaching them that the nature of mind is clear light, that these stains are adventitious, and so forth. And so here, we shouldn't think like when we are approaching this path to Buddhahood, like, oh, but this is going to take so long. They have to accumulate merit for 3 countless eons, and this is going to be so difficult. When a bodhisattva engages in the activities for the benefit of other sentient beings, they are joyful in doing so. They don't act as though this is a burden or something that is like sort of holding them down, but rather this is something that they take pleasure in, take joy in. They engage and are happy with what they are doing. So when we think about like the way a bodhisattva has essentially devoted themselves toward this goal, this vow that they have made, and thereby all of their activities can then become causes leading toward Buddhahood. So here it says then in verse 217, since sentient beings are immeasurable, from the point that this commitment is made, those who remain resolute, whether they are asleep or awake, or even careless, going into verse 218, will still constantly gather merit that, like beings, is immeasurable. And since this merit is immeasurable, it is said that attaining immeasurable Buddhahood is not hard. So here, when it comes to someone who has devoted themselves toward this goal, who has made this kind of commitment, they remain resolute toward that goal of Buddhahood, even when, say, their mind is a little bit like sort of distracted, or even if they are sleeping, whether asleep or awake, or even careless, it says here. So there are times we see in the text where maybe a bodhisattva is sort of playing around or something. Their mind isn't exclusively focused on a particular activity or something. But because of the kind of resolute pledge that they have made, all of their actions are going to go toward the cause of Buddhahood, whether they are sleeping, whether they are eating, whether they're taking medicine, like going for a walk, whatever it is that they do to sustain themselves, even sort of playing around, those actions become something that goes toward that virtue of Buddhahood. So here, when it comes to the kind of vow or commitment that a bodhisattva has made, it is something that, again, encompasses immeasurable sentient beings. And so the merit that comes from that is immeasurable. When they have made this kind of resolution, a bodhisattva isn't thinking just about, oh, well, my people, or of my religion, or of my region, but this encompasses all sentient beings. And so when the object of this positive, this virtuous thought is countless sentient beings, then the virtue that accumulates, the merit that comes from that is countless, is immeasurable. So we shouldn't become discouraged thinking, oh, this isn't something that is possible, or Buddhahood is so difficult, it's going to take so long, but instead should recognize that once one has made this kind of commitment, dedicated their mind towards bringing all sentient beings to Buddhahood, there's an immeasurable amount of merit being made from that, given that sentient beings are immeasurable.
Yeah, from that is just yeah, 당연히 내려서 가서 어떤데 내 중주 longe taxa da de l'opzione di era dan roe ci da sheba di kebe di da mi sheba chasa roan de dan roe pechan so yo ba tongje de le chala ra sin yo ci rogo samne tambo roan de komba kebe da mo ne re chawa ngo sum ba sim be ko ji tele roan de ba sira ro me ba sam ro o ti na shi 심지어 탐지에 된도 산지에 고마 토바쇼 삼 토바쇼이 삼사 임멤버섬 있어요나 로아도다 로아에 무슨 돈을 공부하면 되는 모든 잘라도 요가 판 로에나 된 자들 자가 무슨 심바로와 심지어 탐지에도 산지에 고마 토바 자 삼 임멤버섬 멤버 대토베스도 계속 전주 심바 가르가르랑도 지거라 대 동바송네 이제 동베스도 개와 추도 추도 심지어 동제 추도 소바팅에 다다다네 소디바 체계에서 무엇을 쇼소나 네 조버 섬기세 와라 무슨데 조심시 어 딩딩이들 깨네네 야 자주 쳐도 섬기어 로안도던 로치 다시르시 티신 개변이 지다름 시버샤 베테신도 산제니 고만라 통나서 담는 바sam다 넘바자 많이 바테 쳐도 아니 냠솔란저 자주 섬베 동발란데 가르이나 냠레도 정말 지금에서 타지베 조버 섬기니 깨서나 So then paying the Thomas and change somebody and Yamliche Casere Tanapame to 1,000 years and Jeneke 100 to the Ungre Satisha, he loves Janet. Yeah.
So here in the commentary as well, there is this verse cited from the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. Again, distinguishing between aspirational and engaging bodhicitta. So as corresponding to the wish to go and then setting out, the wise should understand respectively the difference that divides these two. Here, when it comes to, again, like we might think, oh, I want to go buy this thing at the store, but we haven't actually gotten into our car, started walking out the door, but we've made that kind of commitment. We think, oh, I'm going to do this. This corresponds to aspirational bodhicitta. And then once we actually take in action, like get in our car, start walking toward the store, that kind of a thought that is held by action, that is actually being carried by actions, this is corresponds then to engaged bodhicitta. Once we give rise to this kind kind of commitment and take it up by means of a vow, then we think, well, what do I need to do? And we engage in the various actions, particularly like the ethical conduct of a bodhisattva, the ethics of refraining from any kind of negative actions, accumulating virtuous positive actions, and working for the benefit of other sentient beings. So here, when one has made such a resolution, has taken that up by means of a vow and is pursuing that, even in those moments where you say, well, when you were say sleeping or a little bit careless, there is the kind of commitment that one has held is carried forward, and one is basically continuing to accumulate merit even at those times.
Oh yeah. 진짜 다 싸워들려 싸웠어. 거기서 쇼로가 니슈 적지들래도. 어야. 다들 가르쳐도서나. 그것이 밤에 뒤내듯이 루션 뭐니까 루션 빠도 매대도서라. 그것이 밤에 뒤내네. 뒤지 빠도 매봐. 그러 개발 장면이 숨라서 같이 내고 있어라. 빠도 매배 뒤는 뒤지 배뒤를 문에 대해서라. 심지어 빠도 매배는 된다. 야, 네, 대체도 유령 문에 받으서라. 된다네. 그것이 밤에 두네들 루젠 빠도 매대도 매배도 루젠 심지어 빠도 매배도 네 장주 빠도 매대셔서 올라는 매배 장주지 고마 빠도 매바 터번되지 이제 빠도 매배다 고마한테 터번되지 겨 빠도 매대 봐서 대던달이야 산재 고마 터버지 겨 빠도 매바 가래를 주고 내 주대가 봐서 주대가 아니 대고 장주 대고세 대내시거라 장주 빵매 장세 장주 산재지 고만 토발이야 뒷바도 매고 가져 대고 나서 바도 매봐 남시이 심지어 바도 매봐서라 뒷바도 매봐서라 아니 장주 소남이시 소사발에 소바도 아니 가서 바도 매봐 남시이 니가 소지 정부를 메터봐 바도 매봐 심지어 바도 매봐다 뒤바도 매봐다 겨 바도 매봐라 소바와 텐데 마보 뒤마보 라발라 테네스고라 아니 소남다시 소마바사고라 바도 매봐 남시에 소지 정부를 메터봐 텐데 소남다시 소사볼 때네 시담망고로와 시신의 톰메주르세 산제 고마 시신의 톰메주르 토반주르레스고라 어떤 잡아 다반주르 자주 semba 그 초타에 봐서도 소파세 대고 장주 semba 장주 심지어 빠도 매봐 넘버 시 소지선부를 메터봐 시도를 토반주도 톱레라고 그래서 장주 semba 강시 밤에 뒤서 다가래 티마도 때도 야 뭐 될랍나
No.
This
Jason.
oh yeah.
So here, then turning back to the root text, and here it's saying that because a bodhisattva really is endowed with these four immeasurables, we could say not our regular four immeasurables, but that Buddhahood is easy to obtain. So here, coming in our version of verse 219 and 220, it says then, remaining for an immeasurable time and wishing to obtain immeasurable awakening for the sake of immeasurable beings, the bodhisattvas perform immeasurable virtue. So how could they not obtain before long awakening, even though it is immeasurable, through the collection of these four that are immeasurable? So here, a bodhisattva, again, having given rise to this kind of a pledge to become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings, engaging in various actions for that purpose, they accumulate an immeasurable amount of merit, and they also do so for an immeasurable amount of time. So here, going through these four that are immeasurable, here the time is immeasurable. They're pursuing that however long it might take, and that goal itself is immeasurable in terms of of awakening, the qualities of awakening being immeasurable. And this is for the sake of immeasurable beings, those beings that are beyond count. And then the bodhisattvas perform immeasurable virtue. So here, with those four things being immeasurable, pursuing Buddhahood in that way, how could they not obtain before long awakening, even though it is immeasurable? Again, through the collection of these four that are immeasurable.
야, 어쩌래. 다 솔로가 20장이 들어. 아야. 근데 가르쳐 그래서는 그 당부도 시기도 가르쳐 그래서는 손이지 류심지 동에서 왔을 때 봤어. 손남다 시지 손이부터 류다 심지 동에 세와 찔때 봤어도. 손남지 소대의 류지 동에서 이시지 소대의 심지 동에서 왔어. 대치당 시기에서 와. 뒤에 당부도 뒤에다. 다 당분의 산재지 교촌이 소보라 길로범에 차대서 산재지 교리야 전에 개범 초 타이바 담메바 사고 그래서 어디서 사발에 길로범에 차서 메차에 교생 가르쳐는 수남 타에 쉐바다서 수남지 초 타에 봐라 이시 타에 쉐바다 이시게 초 타에 봐 쉐바 대에서 와라 르단 셈게 동에다 요한이도 세월을 지내서 대니 되게 류지스탄 셈지 동에 요한이도 세월을 지내서 오라 탑지 차대에 삼바삼보 장주기 셈다 니지다 잡바다 니지 짐바 수준물라 소바트도 참하게 근데 셈지 동에서 그래서 오라 근데 삼로 야보 당신이 오라 서바 공신이 오라 아니 짐바 가서 동sem다 차도다 대수 강매 삼바삼보 잠바단 이지 장주 셈라서 상부차 되서 와라 네 되게 류지 동에도 설계를 와라 지단 뭐야 수남지 소사 와라 이시지 소되게는 셈비 동에서 이시지 소스다 삼로단의 셈비 동에데 수수 삼로단의 세고라 류지 동에데 건 중앙 쪽에 거기에 연구를 수 삼로단의 다들 동해숙 전변이 총으로 따야다. 근데도 없어서 그 개반적으로 마도시 구실에 제기어 말을 고란에다 자연거라. 셈지 동에 대해서 셈지 속으로 망쳐. 삼로 땅당 공도당 아제당 차도당 전심당 로 근데 시행을 통주지에당 아제당 전대전에 셈배매기 버서셔거라. 대소대 소소 시럽지 딱제세네. 소소 삼로 땅에 섭주 땅에 셈을 섭주 땅에 규주 땅에 제여라. 공도 잡으러 제제 선배 미기가 지금에 미팅하여 제말씀 딱바르 티시 삼루다나 고미기가 차라 아고 이제 가요 말서 서버 공사 현다 삼루다샤나 기초를 삼루마다나 선배 기부제 대초라 소소텔은 양자 잡교제서 티시 삼루당이 되라 가셨던 데서도 선배 기부 매우 차그세 딱바르 고람 미기가 대 삼루당아 되라 고랑을 소대요라 근데서 성단에 바로지를 거라라 아메바전에 제차도도 뉴베스를 차도라 제 담분에 제요라 소소 삼루도 소소 땅에요라 소소 땅에서 티셔라 먼저 남준에 티셔요 가담베 크셔서 랍저도 와티 야보도 다와셔도가 삼루 죽도 마셔나 주중에 삼루때 때면서 삼루 가와 땅고래 가와 육샤고래 소소 고에데 삼루다 메고에데 삼루 땅이요 말아 마시나네 또가 대강가 삼루다 드라마들 강가 삼루다네 소소소 미기버서 샤라 소소소 삼루다 샤나 고 야부 샤바데 셈비 동에데 소소 셈비 소소도 망쳐가데 됐어요다 마서 선남 타야 셰바다 이시 타야 셰바테세 르단 셈비 동에데 뇨가니도 세와지에세 다가 이제 단 레벨을 텐데 말도 자유시마 타이바 시조 시기 소시바테 리심비 동에 요한에도 세워지 그래서 고래 주투바니 길루바 미차데스 고래 주투바니라 길루바에 대해서 고래 주투에들 길루구라 길루체고라데 야고메도 고래 미두삼 유샤고라 개와주엘라 길루지요 마라 정말 동에 타이바 제베 치료서 소소 동에 마무치기 여자들아 상로마다니 알아 레로제 육산이 알아 띵아주 남주네 세계와 띠야보도 소소 삼로 날에 미기버디 세지야 삼로 코연데 딜야 따다데 소소 잡조지고라 소소 대출 삼단계라 가셔대서 나 삼바기보면서 삼바기보면 단다데 고랑 삼로 땅가되고라 아 참마시 삼이나 될 삼로 땅가되고라 소소들 쳐지고라 딜 처음 맞아서 띠 육산에 띵갈 먹어야 되래서 그 삼로 깨서나 땡무당게네 신도송도 신간 셈을 나온다면 사여라 육산에 고라 예로라 그때 따다 대로 지금 따다 되는데 신내지라는 요거 쪽으로 두고 말아 소소대 생기어라 아 산티데서 미디어 삼전데 sembe 소소미시라 티발레에서는 경아 팬도 매서 삼루카를 그 생기 초진에 콜 때문에 당겼을 때도 남미세 샤샤는 고라 예로로 고대로 지금 말아 들어서는 대로 지금 말아 기대기는 신내지다 남산도도라 어떤데 삼루탄다데 제때 sem지 동에데 sem지 삼루탄도 빼려가지고 처음에 때 사시에도 서바카데서 공부를 차도 그리 매버서를 때서 셔도 셈 되어야 된다 계시거라. 그래서 남의 땅에서 대시 삼다네 아니 소소소소 동헬 자더라. 소소소소 매기었어라. 이 버루진 연배선을 찾아서는 셈 꾸에 매버든지 차더라. 그래서 때 간지 배전을 배상을 땅다 야부여라. 그래서 삼을 땅 당분에 땅나 아니 그 용기예요 말해. 그래서 송기 왔다 된다. 그래서 개베치르시 소소바 말루바 동에 타야반 ям수 야 어디 질랍다 됐어 솔가 이슈 작숨데 말해 이슈장이 들어와 아니 이슈장 타게 코데 이슈장 숨데 다가르 냠들 랍션에 들어라
No.
이번에도 좋아 티베르베 티베에도 르기네 티베데게서라 미케 티베데 티베에도 르기네 동에 조금 라서죠. 티베사볼 때는 녀와게다 들을 게 들어. 내때는 르기 동에 생기 동에 가가 용거라 티베할 땐 그래서 티베에도 르기네 동에 조금 동에다 사에 매버 이달 게베네 tinde다 티가가 용거라 조금 라서베 동에 좀 그래서 아 근데 대대 맞아 선남제 대대 맞아서 선남 사바야나 아니 시바 하다 밀게네 고 대화다 근데 지주가 시바 셴나 때메도서 냐오이다 돈돌라 속바 동에나시 하다 밀레 동에인데 요 말와 좀 미게 원래 동에 그 대신 년도 탐제도서 걔네 된도 탐제다 대신 대화 탐제도서 디나시 주주나 송바나시 어디서도 아니 제일 가는도나 어디서 랍선을 좀 다시
So here then picking up with verse 221, and again Geshe-la's numbering is slightly different, but here this is getting at teaching in general how it is that these two accumulations dispel the suffering of body and mind. So in general we could say that by accumulating the collection of merit and wisdom, really we are able to eliminate our physical and mental suffering. So here, when it comes to actually both of these, our way of thinking is particularly important. When we develop the kind of method side, develop love and compassion, bodhicitta, we engage in virtuous actions. We are creating the causes for our future happiness, both physical and mental, the kind of sort of kind-heartedness, good-heartedness toward others. Through those actions, we are creating our own future happiness. And so too, when it comes to the side of wisdom, this is particularly important because our own way of thinking is often what is creating our suffering. Okay, so sometimes we have, like, say, due to the disturbance of the elements and so forth, we experience a physical kind of a suffering. But while we might be able to tweak the kind of external environment in slight ways to ease that suffering, our way of thinking about things is much more powerful in terms of our experience of suffering and happiness. So often our way of thinking is what is creating our suffering. Like when we get angry and we think like, oh, this person did me wrong, and we're holding on to that. We have this sense of, oh, well, they're making me suffer, but actually we are making ourselves suffer by holding on to that in our mind. If we just like sort of let that go and weren't holding on to that so much. So we often have this kind of sense that, well, it's other people, it's those out there that are making me suffer. Other people make me unhappy. And we don't look at how it is that our way of thinking, if we sort of ruminate on something, we bring it to mind again and again and again and don't let it go, we are making ourselves unhappy. So there is a saying by the Kadampas that really we need to learn how to, we should know what we should and shouldn't think about. If we don't know how to properly think about things, we are going to create our own suffering. So here in the commentary to this verse, I mean, it talks about how in general, those two accumulations help us to dispel our mental and physical suffering. And really what we should feel discouragement toward are the causes of samsara. That's what we should be fed up with, not sort of the things that we usually are, or what we should feel discouragement toward. This is again, our situation within samsara is such that we are often creating or adding to our own suffering. Like when we are really invested in our way of thinking about something like, oh, that person over there is making me unhappy. And as long as we are holding that in our mind, we are going to experience suffering. If we were able to instead sort of start looking at it like it's a movie or something where we're not so invested in that story, we can begin to see, oh, all sorts of things appear in my mind, but I don't have to follow after them. I don't have to hold on to them. And if we don't sort of pay attention to those things, if we let them go, we are really able to eliminate a lot of our suffering. So here, when we think about eliminating physical and mental suffering through the accumulation of merit and wisdom, our wisdom in terms of how we think about the things that are happening to us or the way that our mind is working, we can really see how we make ourselves very much miserable in dependence upon our own kind of our way of thinking. So in verse 221, it says then, what is called immeasurable merit and also that called immeasurable wisdom quickly eradicate the suffering of both the body and mind. And so then verse 222 is quite similar. So we'll read that together. That hunger, thirst, and other such physical suffering occur in unfortunate rebirths due to one's misdeeds. Bodhisattvas do not engage in misdeeds due to merit. They have no such suffering in other rebirths. So here again, when it comes to these two collections, this is what eliminates our suffering. And as it is described in the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, that all happiness and higher rebirths, those come from our merits. All of our suffering and lower rebirths come from our non-virtues. So it is in dependence upon the actions that we create, that we experience various kinds of sufferings. To eliminate those sorts of sufferings, we eliminate their causes. Yeah,
뭐야? 어르셔들 당아도 데려다 솔로가 니수 접시 데려다 어디 가르쳐 그랬으나 네 초소배 이 시기 초기 아니 디가 소래 심지통에 세워서 디셔도 니수 접시 데려와 어리 니수 데려 되는 가르쳐 이 시기 심지 이 시기 이지 동에 세워서라 결과로 몸배 이지 동에는 세더라 몸배 이지 동에는 세더라 차단서 몸배 왕게 쪼데 이지 동에는 땅보다 그 소설 내가 쟁게나 가리나 즉 저희나 즉배 유랑어도 두거를 시부진지 디왕게는 선범배지 왔다 강가 용거라 이지 동에도 용거라 담아지 버리지네 담아지 버랑어 버릴 수 있어 도그래 간중에 배 유랑군이 주버다 말라 삼삼 나라와 주버지 퍼줘대 랑군이 주번지 안에 주랑신지 주번지 자인에 가리네 저위네 시부지 야보다 도부통 거라 몸배 얘기 동에 내서 내 삶을 메대와 공동하게 차도 단체에서 강가용 거라 몸배 얘기 동에네 차나서 착배왕이 지용 거라 너가 착배 유들은 너가 깨야 되부터 지만들부터 가르쳐나 뒤치기 용거를 믿기고 그래 지금보다 신하랍들 당할 지지 원서를 삼지 마용게 두죠 용서에서 또번 남도 제만 붙이 제요서 어떤데 삼루 숙심보 자다니다 직처이다 근데 삼루 라와도 주베 삼루 숙심보다 아니 나라지 지금도 세라 먼지 숙심보는 동에 마용구라 대몽배 얘기도 어때 몸바데 라와도 주발서 봐 딱반전 발서 다 가게 용구도 차배 유도도 라와도 주반지 초에 유도도 라와도 주반지 된대와 몸배 얘기 동안에 차다서 착배왕 연구된 지배왕 연구를 내가 망부된 배왕을 써봐 다 대대 매배 시기 대 대매배 동번이 또배 시기라 라와도 주배 라시암 매바 또 별로 되게 되는 요한이도 보세 대 요한이도 되네 semba yiki miki bachi yato zo tezo pongo desu. Ta tongpa nida tende samlo tanga togo mena ya, seba kumya tanga ya shenda samlo le labu tanga tuye tende yora tege nga zo kondo sheyenba, stichole samlo ma tanga che tipa ka che, shenda samlo tanga temu tanga esuru te ta tende chene che yora to. O tende chene, tenda samlo tanga ne, soso sembi samlo te, tungen yongya shidi samlo tanga te karchen tungen samlo tanga yora sam, Niko samlo ma tanga ne yongu marwa. O de que se desha. Ni su subsidiero, peche tawo ni sero. Ya tende sero.
Oh.
O tisla.
So then, turning to this next verse, it is talking about how it is through wisdom that we can eliminate mental suffering. And so it reads in verse 223, due to confusion comes the mental suffering of attachment, anger, fear, lust, and such. Bodhisattvas quickly eliminate this suffering by realizing all things are foundationless. So again, mainly it is our way of thinking that creates our suffering. Like when we think like, oh, someone is hurting me, we take that other as though they were objectively like existent autonomously, independently from their own side. And maybe and ourselves as well, we hold to exist in that way. And whatever it might be that is sort of not right, that is off, we also hold that itself to exist in this kind of autonomous, independent sort of a way. And it is from that holding to this solid I and other as being objectively existent that all of our various afflictions arise, our anger, our attachment, our pride, our jealousy, our competitiveness, and we make ourselves unhappy. From as strong as we are grasping at a sense of I, so much the stronger our grasping at an I, the stronger the suffering that we experience from the afflictions that arise from that. And so here, even without the kind of wisdom realizing emptiness, I mean, here it speaks of Bodhisattvas quickly eliminate this suffering by realizing that all things are foundationless, or by understanding them as empty of inherent existence. And that is a very powerful way to eliminate the kind of sufferings that come from our various afflictions. But there's other sort of methods we could use, we could employ, such as seeing what is happening in our mind as being sort of like a movie. We're not so invested in it as observing it, allowing those thoughts to kind of dissipate and go away. But it is through various methods, various, well, I should say wisdom, methods of wisdom, that we are able to really abandon mental suffering, whether it is fully realizing emptiness or coming to an understanding of the situation in a different way through our manner of thinking. This is how we are able to eliminate our mental suffering.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
So we are out of time for today, so we will leave it there.
oh yeah.
Tuchite Genla. And thank you, Katrina, for your beautiful translations. And we'll finish with some dedication prayers, and we'll see everyone online again next week at 8 a.m. Pacific.
May the spiritual teachers who lead me on the sacred path, and all spiritual friends who practice it have long life. May I pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. Grant such inspiration, I pray. May the lives of the Venerable spiritual mentors be stable, and their virtuous actions spread in the 10 directions. May the light of Lusang's teachings dispelling the darkness of the beings in the 3 worlds always increase. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, and that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. In the snowy mountain pure land, you're the source of good and happiness. Powerful Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezi, may you stay until samsara ends.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Tuchena again.
Oh yeah. Yes,
Oh, geez.
Recording stop.